Hey everyone, welcome to 1732 Streaming's Freedom Circuit. I'm JK, and we got my brother today in the chat. CP, there he is right there, CP 1985. So he'll be commenting, and if you guys wouldn't mind, say hi to him. And also, speaking of commenting, if you guys wouldn't mind, drop some comments for us so CP 1985 can reply to you, and I'll try to reply to you as well. And also, if you guys don't mind, subscribe, especially on Rumble. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I really need some followers right now. It would help me out quite a bit. I'd appreciate it. And also, if you don't mind, hit that like button. So the thumbs up button on Rumble, I really do need that. So give me some likes, man. It helps me out quite a bit as a content creator. So we're gonna go ahead and do some updates today, and I'm gonna be looking at some notes here on my phone. But and as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the news in case something breaks and we want to talk about it. And CP 1985 is also monitoring as well. So actually, this one comes from CP. Um, Joseph Lampart's July 10th ruling in Barber versus Trump may open the door for a nationwide abortion ban because it gives legal precedent to standing to unborn children. So going back and researching that, and I highly recommend that you go back and look at that yourself. Basically, what it's, if I read it right, is that they are trying to give essentially Trump's executive order when he became president was to try to limit birthright citizenship. So if two illegals come here, have a child, essentially they're trying to say, you can't, that can't be an American citizen. Essentially, that's the Cliff Notes. What this ruling does is it's now giving precedence to an unborn child, basically saying this unborn child birthed with two illegals should be an American citizen. So here's the question, and CP 1985 brought up a very good point, is now they've made a definition of what an unborn child is. So essentially, the left is always saying, well, a child in utero is not, not a human being, it's just a clump of cells. Well, a clump of cells, should that be an American citizen? So now you're saying that's a child that should be an American citizen. So now you're saying that is a human being. So does that set the path for, the definition of a human being? Now, obviously, I'm a conservative. Most conservatives believe, at conception is when the child is a child. It is a human being, and therefore the rights extend to it at that time as soon as it is created. But the left has always said that that's not a child, but now they want to give that child or clump of cells citizenship. So now is that a child? And doesn't it not have all the rights that are afforded to American citizens, including not being murdered? So let me know what you guys think about that. Like I said, drop some comments on that. I'd really appreciate it. That's actually a pretty hot topic every day. And, like I said, CP will be happy to go back and forth with you as well. So let's go ahead and move on from that. Just a brief thing. Israel agrees to Gaza withdrawal withdrawal line. Trump says ceasefire deal moves forward when Hamas confirms the immediate ceasefire will take place and the hostage exchange will begin. And he did make numerous comments saying that if they do not meet the deadline, that there is going to be hell to pay. Basically, he's going to say, Israel, go clean house. Now, all intents and purposes, it looks like that they are going to negotiating table right now, and it looks, if I remember correctly, I saw this morning that they're meeting in Egypt to discuss, further negotiations. So maybe that's going the right way. Maybe they'll end this 3,000-year war. Maybe they won't. If history repeats itself, it'll just keep going on. I hope it doesn't. But I definitely hope that the hostages come back. They've been holding on to those for a long time, so maybe we can get those back, whether they're dead or alive. I'm sure those families would like them back. Let me know what you guys think about that. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that there might actually be peace between Hamas and Israel, or do you think it's going to continue to go on? Unfortunately, I think, this is opinion, I think it's going to continue to go on, and we're going to see conflict, and eventually we're just going to see Israel go in there and just wipe them completely out. And, my opinion is they absolutely does, I think that's okay because the Israelis are under attack every single day and they have to fight for their lives and they have a long history of being attacked all the time. They're surrounded by aggressors on all sides. and they have to defend themselves. That would be like if we were under constant threat from, not that we ever would be, because Canada sucks, but if we were under constant threat from Canada, we wouldn't have the right to defend ourselves. Well, we do. So, but all right, so let's go on to the next thing here. All right, so let's move on to the government shutdown. We're still in government shutdown. I am not feeling any effects of that. I don't know about you guys. Let us know. If you're feeling that, feeling the hardships of the government being shut down. I'm not. I think it's okay if we continue to do this, and I don't think the GOP should cave in any way, shape, or form to the Democrats, because that's what I voted for. Is that what you voted for? So, let me know. Now, one of the things right now, and they're calling it the Schumer shutdown, which I think is absolutely hilarious right now. According to Fox News, currently it costs the taxpayers 400 million per day for workers not to work, because when the government does open back up, they are going to get back pay. So, ultimately we are on the hook as taxpayers for that. So it's costing us $400 million a day. Now, my opinion, even though that we're going to be paying the bill, I think it's a good thing that this is going on, because the GOP can take this opportunity, the Trump administration, to shrink the government workforce with permanent layoffs and other government related things. So I think this is still a win for the GOP. I don't think there is a situation that comes out of this where the GOP or the Trump administration looks like the bad guy. I think it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all Democrats. They want free healthcare for illegals, and then you even have them going on news now saying it's not about illegals. Well, if it's not about illegals, then you should, be okay with the CR, which, the continuing resolution, which is, by the way, a Biden budget. So why are you not okay with it now? Going back to last episode, Trump derangement syndrome. Just because Trump said so, that's why you don't like it. So, that's the government shutdown going on right now. And let's see, CP 1985, going back to the Gaza thing, bad actors from outside Gaza will likely interfere, sadly. Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Drop some comments about that, guys. See what if you agree with him. I know I do. So let's go on to the next thing. Now, I want to spend the reason we kind of went through those things pretty quick is I live in Virginia, so I want to go over some the governor election right now in Virginia. So right now you have Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Sears currently running against each other. And the last poll that came out is they are neck and neck. So Winston Sears was trailing, but now statistically they are neck and neck. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was just a couple of points that Winston Sears was behind, which statistically that doesn't really matter in elections. So it's a neck and neck race. And by the way, Republicans, please go out and vote. Geez, we cannot have Abigail Spanberger as our governor. And I'm going to go over some of the reasons why, and I'm going to show you some clips and stuff like that. So, and by the way, the source for now that they're neck and neck came from NBC 12, which is a local news outlet here in Virginia. So again, I encourage you to go back. Everything I say, don't take my word for it. If you trust me, that's great. I really do appreciate it, but I still encourage you to go look at things. And if you find something, call me out on it, by the way, so I can go back and research it myself and go back and redact it or whatever, or go back, not redact it, go back and correct myself. So admonish, so I can admonish myself, as Crowder does on his show every day, which I think is hilarious. So some of the reasons why we do not want Spanberger in Virginia as governor is Spanberger. So this is just one of the situations. She wants men to be able to participate in women's sports, and she wants them to be able to change in women's locker rooms, and vice versa. And, you know, this is a hot topic in Virginia. We all remember the Loudoun County incident going back a few years where, they were allowing men in women's locker rooms, and that turned into a big national debate, which ultimately won the governorship for Republicans with Governor Youngkin, which I think has been a fantastic governor. So, I have no issues with him right now. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think he's great. Winston Sears seems to be along the same lines. She is adamantly against men and women's locker rooms and men and women's sports. So that alone should be one of the reasons why, you shouldn't be voting for Abigail Spanberger, in my humble opinion. But see, let me pull this up here real quick. I have something for you guys to look at real quick, and it is. Oh, that's the Jay Johnson text. Don't worry, we're going to get into that in just a minute. But this is Spamberger here talking about trans and what she believes is okay. So let me know if you agree with this here. So let's take a look here real quick. Let me get that rolling for you guys.
Commercial play that says Spamberger supports boys in girls' bathrooms. So I guess my question for you is, do you support transgender women playing in girls' sports and being in girls' restrooms?
So in Virginia, until very recently, had a process in place where on an individual, one-by-one basis, schools, parents, principals, coaches were making decisions based on fairness, competitiveness, and safety, where a child might be able or might not be able to play in a particular sport. It was in place for 10 years. Over that time, there were roughly 40 kids who went through the process. Some were denied the ability to play the sport they wanted to play, some were approved. But it was a process that involved parents, that involved coaches, that involved school districts, and people with knowledge of what is the particular sport, what is the age of the particular child. And I think that that was a system that was working. And again, some kids were approved and some kids were denied based on competitiveness, fairness, and safety for all of our kids. Now, what you don't see my opponent.
Okay, so as you can see, she's okay with there being a essentially a vetting process for allowing men to participate in women's sports. Now, let me know what you think about that. I think that is absolutely horrible in all situations. As we know, in general, men are stronger, faster, when it comes to physical competitions. I mean, that's just biology. There's no way around that. Whether you want to pretend you're a female or not as a man is irrelevant. You are going to be stronger in most cases. Yes, I know there's going to be some women out there that are absolutely butch and amazing and heavy lifters and whatnot. But, in general, men are going to be stronger, and it's not fair to women. Now, I don't have a daughter. I have a son, so I can't speak directly to that. But I can imagine that if I had a daughter, I would absolutely be appalled if she worked hard for scholarships and, just competition in general. If she worked hard and then had to compete against a man who would go in there and absolutely just obliterate the entire team. I mean, that's just the reality. You're seeing it across the US where this is allowed. I mean, women's records are being obliterated by men pretending to be women. And as you can see, Spamberger is okay with it. So I'm not. I think that's a horrible reason for her to be governor. I definitely do not want to see women in men's locker rooms, and vice versa. I don't want to see women in men's locker rooms. That just creates not only an uncomfortable situation, but a liability from a liability standpoint. I mean, you're just putting people at risk for things that shouldn't be happening at the end of the day. So let me know what you think about that. Don't be scared to drop some comments if you go back and watch this video, or if you're in the chat right now. I'd really like to know what you guys think about that. So let's see here. What else? So let's move on from that and let's go to, let's see. Let's see here. This one comes from CP as well. He sent this to me. He collaborates on the back end with me quite a bit. So, obviously we also have other elections going on in Virginia as well. And why is Virginia so important right now? Well, Virginia is I mean, currently, I guess you can say it's a blue state, even though we voted red. So we're kind of more of a purple state. So it's kind of a nationwide thing because if you can turn Virginia into a solid red state, maybe there's hope out there for other states as well. Um, I live in a county where we are red as can be, although it's getting blue every day because the damn yuppies are moving into our county and voting the other way, which I can't stand. But you know, anyways, it's very important. If we can keep Virginia red, I think that there's hope for the rest of the nation as well to turn some of these other states around. One of the reasons that we lose elections here in Virginia, why we go blue, is simply because of Northern Virginia, Virginia Beach, and Richmond. Mostly Virginia Beach and Northern Virginia carry most of the votes. So if you look at an electoral map of Virginia, you're only going to see, maybe tiny pockets across the state where there's blue, but it's going to be just red absolutely everywhere, except for Northern Virginia and Virginia Beach, where the majority of the population of Virginia is. So And one of the reasons you saw Youngkin become governor is because in Northern Virginia, where Loudoun County is where that incident went, where the man was in the woman's locker rooms, and that turned into a big deal, and it actually was able to turn some of the votes towards the Republicans. Not enough to turn Northern Virginia red by any means, but enough to swing the votes enough for him to become governor. So let's move on to Jay Jones. He's currently running for Attorney General. This man is absolutely disgusting here. Let's see, we got something in here from CP 1985. John McEnroe was crucified in the media for saying Venus and Serena Williams would get destroyed by male tennis players due to physical difference between women and men. Yeah, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, CP, if you go back and watch clips of Serena Williams, she would tell you that she would absolutely get dominated by a male in tennis because there's just that much of a physical difference. So good point, good example. Thank you. So, all right, let's go on to Jay Jones. Okay, Jay Jones running for Attorney General. Sorry, guys, we got off topic there for a second. It just happens. Jay Jones, in my humble opinion, is a disgusting human being and absolutely should not be allowed to even run for Attorney General. But this man is something else. So he sent text messages to another individual in the Virginia legislature, and it was, well, we're going to look at some of the text messages here real quick, and we're really going to see where the left is, especially in the wake of Charlie Kirk, why this is obviously very concerning. So let's take a look at some of these text messages here. So let's pull up, and this comes from the National Review, and here's his first set of text messages here. So let's see. All right, so I got to lean over. I can't really see it that much on my screen. It's a little bit smaller. So in this text message here, he's talking about how, let's see here. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he's talking about killing essentially another representative. So what he's saying is if he had 3 bullets and he put Hitler, Pol Pot, and this other representative in a room, he would use 2 of the 3 bullets to kill the Virginia representative. And in that situation, he's essentially comparing them, a Republican, to he's comparing them to Hitler, Nazis, and dictators. I mean, this is this horrible language that's causing what we're seeing these days with this leftist violence. So you can see that there in that text message. And if I'm not mistaken, if you go into text message number 2 here, let's see here. You weren't simply asking questions, and you know it. It genuinely was. I was trying to understand your logic. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. And he's referring to, the previous text message where he's saying, he would use 2 bullets to kill that individual. So essentially he's saying that people have to die for policy to change. Now, policy being leftist policy against right. So, and that's just disgusting. And I'm sorry I don't have the clip text. There's also more texts that I saw earlier today saying that it would be okay to kill his family as well. Now, some of you are these text messages real? Yeah, they're real. Not only have I seen them, but he's come out and apologized for those text messages, which, why would you apologize for something you didn't do? So yeah, let's see here. What do we got here? Jay Jones has been disavowed by the Fraternal Order of Police. Yes, yeah. So he was. There was a letter, and CP sent it to me, and I think I have it here. Let me see if I can pull it up real super quick. So sent from the Fraternal Order of Police on, let me see the date. I believe it was yesterday. I don't see a date on it, but I believe it was yesterday. So you can go on to Fraternal Order of Police and look it up yourself if you'd like, but it's just essentially the Fraternal Order of Police saying, this is they can't stand it. They think it's horrible, and they think these actions he should withdraw from the Attorney General race immediately. So that's from the Fraternal Order of Police. I would highly recommend that you go back and look at that. There, you might not be able to see it, but there's a screenshot of it right there. So yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right about that, CP. Thank you for bringing that up. So Fraternal Order of Police have already said, nope, we don't want anything to do with this person, and I don't disagree. Um, Now, here's some of the other uh, things about this that are not making me happy. So first of all, let's pretend for a moment that somebody on the right had made that comment. That they would be calling for that person not to run, and that person would probably have to drop out actually, because a person on the right. So let's pretend Governor Youngkin was running, and then his attorney general candidate put out those messages. I can guarantee you that Governor Youngkin would put major pressure on him for him to drop out and essentially have him drop out at the end of the day. So, I don't know why this isn't happening now. So, what's really disturbing though is Spanberger, who is running, the Democrat running against Winston Sears, and she says, I spoke frankly with Jay about my disgust with what he said in the text. I made clear to Jay that he must take full responsibility for his words. I will always condemn um, violent language in our politics. But she didn't ask him to step out of the race, and she hasn't made any comments for him to step out of the race, which I have a huge problem with. So that, in my opinion, means that she is okay with that, and she just coming out to apologize just so she can grab a couple extra votes saying that she stands against political violence. She's not calling for him to step out. Anybody on the right is smart enough to understand that we know that she's okay with it. But if you're on the left, you really got to ask yourself, she's not asking for him to step out. And as she's running for governor, this individual is going to be, in her cabinet, going to be in the legislature with her. I mean, do you want that individual being the chief law enforcement officer in Virginia? Somebody who's okay with killing political rivals, you know? That's I think that's a huge problem. I think that needs to be addressed immediately. So if you live in Virginia, you need to call your local representatives immediately and, call for him to be removed. Do everything you can. Go to the local government website, send emails. I've sent emails to my representatives in the past, and you might think it doesn't do anything, but if there's enough emails, enough phone calls, eventually somebody will come out and say something publicly. So go for it, guys. Get out there and do everything you can to get this individual removed. And also, Spanberger, I mean, do everything you can to not have her elected, legally. I'm talking about voting and speaking out against her, of course. And we don't do violence here on the right. That's not our thing. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have today. If you guys have any suggestions for other episodes, I would really appreciate if you drop them in the comments. We'll go back, and we're constantly changing things almost every single day now, just to try to keep up with the times. I gotta tell you, it's kind of hard, even for just this little tiny podcast here. So, but yeah, drop some comments for us if you don't mind, and we'll try to engage with you guys and give us suggestions. We really would appreciate it. And of course, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I need followers in the worst way, man. We're getting there. We're getting to a point where maybe we can make this just a little bit bigger, and I would really appreciate y'all's help with that. And hit that notification bell on Rumble so you know when we go live, and also hit that thumbs up button. That thumbs up button does a lot of good, actually. It helps. I think it helps add to the algorithm and stuff like that, so we can end up in the algorithm and get our show out there. But in the meantime, guys, do me a favor, keep your head on a swivel, stay safe. Don't forget to vote for Winston Sears. If you don't mind, I would appreciate it personally, because you know what we didn't touch on? Spamberger wants to take away, she wants to take away essentially AR-15s. I believe the terminology here, let me see if I have the terminology here that she uses exactly. Let's see here. What was it? I believe it was assault style weapons is what she used, and that would include AR-15s. So she's trying to drive us towards the California way of life, man. I mean, let's not allow that. We can't have that. The AR-15, maybe it looks scary, but it's no different than any other rifle. So that's also another reason we shouldn't be voting for Spamberger. So, all right, guys, do me a favor, keep your head on a swivel, stay safe, and I will absolutely see y'all hopefully here in the next couple of days. We'll get another episode going, and drop those comments for me so we know what we can talk about. Do me a favor, follow us on Rumble, 1732 Streaming. You can follow us on Twitch, JK1732A, and you can follow us on YouTube at 1732 Streaming. We'll upload this episode here in the next hour or so. So if you happen to be a YouTube watcher, you can watch us there too. All right, everyone, have a good one. Stay safe. I'll talk to you later. And